Shaedon Sharpe has now started 3 games in a row since being benched back on January 19th, I believe. And Blazers are 2-1 in those games, more like 2.5.
Yeah.
Because we did lose that Cavaliers game, and that was an awesome game that we took him to the wire on. So we'll call it 3 good games with Shaedon in the starting lineup now, which is really good to see. Do you think Shaedon should stay in that starting spot going forward, given the fact that the Blazers are now in a do everything you can to win games and not necessarily just throwing minutes at young players to allow them to get better, which is, I think, more so why people wanted Shaedon to get minutes before?
Well, dude, we are officially at the biggest change of the season by a mile with the news today of Kyrie tearing his ACL. Because we did our last video, we talked about okay, we have a road there, but a lot has to go right, not just for us, but some stuff probably has to go wrong for some other teams.
Yeah.
And it's gone from dude, this is I don't know, I would have said 10, 15% chance of this happening.
Right.
To it is a real path. With Kyrie getting hurt, Anthony Davis being out, I think Luka got traded.
Yeah, I heard about that, I think.
Heard about that?
I'm going to have to double check that.
This is no longer just wow, wouldn't this be awesome? It's oh, we have a real pathway to making the plan. So, the idea of okay, we need to give Sharpe minutes for, like you said, his development. We need to give these guys more minutes for development. All valid points, you know what I mean? But now it's what lineups, what do we have to do to win now? Which is awesome. That's what
finally,
we want, at least.
Finally.
The best. We've been waiting years for this.
Yeah.
That's what we have to start thinking about more Sharpe, is it's not about just his development, it's about what's best for the team. We've been, before the Wizards game, we were pretty, very pro bring Sharpe off the bench. I feel like a lot of people don't quite realize this, is that our stretch of great basketball started the first game we benched Sharpe. That's just the absolute truth. Against the Bulls, since then, we've been good. And that is not, what's the word? Coincidence. That's not a coincidence, dude. We took a guy who was playing league worst perimeter defense, questionable shot selection, worst three-point efficiency in the league given his attempts, which is true. For a guy who takes as many threes as Sharpe does, he has the lowest percentage in the NBA. I don't know if that's still true. I'm guessing it is, but it's been true for most of the season. Pre-Shaedon benching, we were the 29th worst defense in the NBA. Yeah. Since benching him, we're the second best defense in the NBA.
Yeah.
But these last 4 games, dude, he has looked so much more decisive. He is trying defensively, because that's the main thing, dude. Is I'm not expecting Shaedon to be this Tumani level, even Chris Murray level or Denny level defender. It's we want to see him not take plays off.
Right.
He goes into space mode. You know what I mean? Where he's in his own goddamn world. And it's aggravating to watch.
So a play that I recall, it was at the end of regulation in the Cavs game where Shaedon has that really nice putback tip shot to tie the game when we were down 2 with about 30 seconds left. He had that tip shot, and then he also had the one at the very end of the game where Ant got fouled instead and still made the free throws. So Shaedon was doing really good stuff, offensive rebounds, putbacks. That's exactly what you want to see out of someone who could jump higher than literally anyone else in the NBA, right?
Yeah.
The problem was, went down on the other end of the floor, Sharpe lost Max Strus on the baseline. He ran to the corner, hit a corner 3.
Oh, I remember that.
And goes up 3. And it just brings me back to that comment that Chauncey made in that quick article of Shaedon can be a 23-point-a-night scorer, but he can't let up 25. He hasn't been perfect. Obviously, not many people have, except for Tumani. Tumani's been actually perfect. We looked it up. But
Defensive Player of the Month.
Player of the Month, Tumani Kamara. Clap it up for him.
Yeah.
But there have been better plays. There was a play in the 76ers game yesterday where he literally dove all the way across the court. We're up 12 or something in the beginning of the 4th. The game's kind of already over, but Sharpe's out there on the court diving for a ball before a Philly player can get to it, but standing on his 2 feet. There's also one where he tried to jut back and get a steal, and he ended up almost tearing his groin. The consistency, and that's the big word with Shaedon on both ends of the floor, still needs to develop. But I think, what Chauncey did, and I guess reprimanding him and putting him on the bench, did seem to unlock something a little bit in his head to think more constantly and to be a little bit more afraid of what happens if you don't do these things. It's the habits that over and over and over, if he can continue to develop them, will be good. And that's why I'm really glad that we're playing winning basketball now. Those habits get developed faster when there's more on the line, especially for someone that everyone thinks is somewhat aloof and not really kind of focused. If what he needs to be focused is either one, playing for playing time and playing hard for playing time, or two, which is what Chauncey was doing when the games didn't really matter as much, or two, playing in crunch time situations where the game is on the line. If those are probably the two best ways to get someone to really focus.
Yeah.
And we're seeing it now with games that matter, which is why it's good that we have games that matter.
The main reason, or one of the reasons I think we'd be just as fine bringing him off the bench, is I think we need to remember that his best game of the season by far against the Wizards came off the bench.
Right.
Like, I feel like everyone's grouping that in with his, like, increased role.
Yeah.
But Jerami was playing that game. And that's proof that he can come off the bench and get more minutes when he showed that he's earned it. Even though I've loved his increased defensive effort the last few games, I love his rebounding. I love that he's been trying to be more of a playmaker. You know, he's trying to do things that involve more than just ISO scoring and off-screen scoring. He's trying to play winning basketball, which, again, that's a theme of this entire episode, is what can we do to make the play? What can we do to play winning basketball? And he's shown that he is putting in the effort to do those things. Yeah. The problem right now, though, with Shaedon is that if he goes into a big game he's starting and those things don't go well, that's what kind of starts to hurt you. So, that's why I'm still leaning towards it's better to bring him off the bench, because we can run a lineup that starts the game with guys who we know aren't going to make young guy mistakes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if he's in the game, if he's showing that he's hot, he's showing that he knows that he can if he's playing winning basketball, then we can just play him more that way. That's what happened in the Wizards game.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to start to play a lot of minutes.
Right.
But what's good about bringing him off the bench is that if he is having a tough night, we don't demote him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which I think is better for him.
Right. I think we should all kind of take a step back and, like, I think commend Chauncey for, one, how he's been able to kind of pull this, you know, improvement out of not only Scoot from before, but like now in this segment, Shaedon. Like, no matter what happened, like, no matter how you feel about how Chauncey handled the situation or what was done, at the end of it, Shaedon had his highest scoring game of his career, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the mark that most people want to see out of Shaedon, because a lot of people are looking for us to have that 1A scorer, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the mark that people are most excited to see out of him, that's what you got. And it was against the Wizards team, sure, but it was 1 off the bench, and it was 2 after 16 or whatever games of Shaedon being benched, right? If you just look at the results, what has happened thus far has worked, and all the anger and all the resentment directed towards Chauncey throughout the whole process for thinking that he just needs to start and play minutes over and over and over again, and then we'll get to this point. We don't know if that would have worked. But what we do know,
we know that this worked because we're fighting for a play-in spot.
Because we're fighting for a play-in spot. Because everything that has happened in these past 2 months has led to us winning games and our players getting better. And they're getting so good that we might actually lose our pick.
The main concern with Shaedon getting benched is killing his development. It has proven to be the exact opposite. We've seen the best stretch of his career on both ends by a mile.
Yeah.
So playing Shaedon off the bench was the right decision.
Yeah.
Right now, to kind of wrap this up a little bit.
Yeah.
Asking you right now, do you think we have a higher chance of making the plan with Shaedon starting or with Jerami starting?
I'm going to say with Jerami starting, given that this is just a cold streak that's waiting to turn hot.
It's the longest cold streak of all time.
It's the longest cold streak of all time, and it's really unlike him to go for this long. So I say that, I guess, and it's kind of a cheat caveat in that way. But if you give me Jerami's career shooting splits for the next 20 games, then it's with Jerami.
People are going to hear that and think we're insane. They're going to be like, what? Jerami has sucked this year and Shaedon's playing incredibly.
Yeah.
But I think this is the most important part. Our identity is a defensive identity. If that's the identity we're going for, if we were going for more offensive identity or an identity of player development, of young player development, if that's what we were going for, start Shaedon. Because the last few games, he's been better offensively than Jerami, especially when playing with someone like Clean who can set better screens. Who, oh, my God, just how much did he open up the game for Ant
in
the second half? Just like mean screen after mean screen, opening up the game for Ant to hit threes. Without a doubt, our main focus right now is a defensive identity. It is how we've gotten to this point because with Jerami, with Denny, with Tumani, and now with Klingon, we've had the second best defense in the NBA over the last 21 games, 22 games now, which is absolutely insane that the second youngest team in the NBA, Portland Trail Blazers, now for a quarter of the season have been arguably the best defense in the NBA.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah.
So it's like, to me, it's like a win-win in starting Jerami because like we have his defense, we're going to have a top 3 defense in the NBA, and if Shaedon's cooking that night, we can play him for 35 minutes.
Here's the last thing I'll say too is like if your stance is like we must keep Shaedon here for as long as possible and we must get rid of Jerami as quick as possible, having Jerami start and look good is good for his trade value in the offseason. Like I've brought up before, tampering Shaedon down however much we can going into this contract extension year saves us that much millions of dollars potentially to use on new players that when he finally explodes next year looks even better on his contract. So
100%.
If that helps you think of the decision to bench Shaedon and put Jerami in, and helps you sleep at night with it, I would go with that. But really, I do think that a Jerami Grant that is hitting his shots gives us a really, really good chance to beat good teams, and then a Shaedon off the bench that is participating is just a bonus. Well, thank you guys for listening. Appreciate you guys tuning back in each and every time and dropping some comments. We're just on the verge of 300 subscribers, so we appreciate you all. The Blazers are rocking and rolling the play-in, I guess I should say.
Playoffs, baby.
The playoffs, baby. The fact that playoffs are even on the tip of our tongue.
You know what's hilarious is we're talking play-in now. In a month and a half, we could be talking playoffs. Oh my god, dude.
It's a fun time to be a Blazer fan, and we're glad you guys are along for the ride with us. So we'll catch you guys next time. Give us a like, give us a comment, give us a subscribe. We appreciate it.
Yeah, Blazers are cool, man.
Blazers are cool.
Thanks, guys.